The night smells like Chanel, dry-aged beef fat, and rain trying to decide whether to fall. The Sovereign Court Hotel glows like a palace someone polished with money. The marble lobby already full of donors who smile with their teeth and drink water with lime, as if that makes the gin seem responsible. Outside, the SUVs queue. In one of them, a man sleeps with the stubbornness of someone who hasn't rested in months. His name is Kai Mendoza. He is 31 and he has a face that looks like it used to laugh more. Dark hair falls over his brow. His suit fits well, but the fabric has a memory. It creases in places that tell you it was bought once. Tailored once and then asked to do too much heavy lifting. "Ma'am, your father is waiting," says the Summers butler, his voice gentle, his eyes already counting angles. Sloane Summers smooths her dress, the kind that shot 100 press releases into the world the moment it was delivered, eyes like the interior of a winter ocean. She leans into the SUV and whispers, "Please, just don't do anything tonight. It's Dad's..." She stops. "It's important." Kai doesn't answer. "He's sleeping like someone finally turned down the world. Leave him," she tells the butler. "He's fine here." "Of course," the butler says, which means, of course we will leave him where the photographers can see. A cluster of reporters outside the ropes pivot at the sight of her. Sloane gives them 10 degrees of smile, polite, famous, untouchable. Lenses click. A whisper moves through them the way gossip does, electric and hungry. That him in the car? The son-in-law? The useless one? This is how a city eats a person. It starts with a rumor and a camera and a family that stops correcting either. Inside, 2 floors up in a private salon with a chandelier like frozen fire, Victor Summers pours a drink for a man who doesn't drink. Dr. Gideon Vale stands at the window, seeing his own reflection in the glass and fixing his tie anyway. Vale is the kind of scientist who has learned how to be photographed. "Our 5-year winter," Victor says. "Over?" "You always had the inputs," Vale says. "You hired me to model the wind," Victor smiles, wolf small and pleased with himself. "Your transfer works." "My transfer quantifies luck," Vale says, as if it is less obscene to say it that way. "Luck is a distribution. We locate the outlier, bind him, and harvest the excess drift. Framed in math, it's quite civilized." "And framed in English?" Victor asks. "In English? We made the worst day of his life into our normal." Victor raises his glass to normal. Sloane arrives with a timing that feels rehearsed. Victor kisses her cheek, says, "You look like an apology no one deserves." "It is a compliment in this family." "When is it enough?" Sloane asks because she has that flaw. "When do we let him go?" Victor's smile fails to reach his eyes. "After we close the book. We're 2 days out. We could just divorce." "We could," Victor says. "And the street would assume the son-in-law ran when the money dried up." Perception becomes practice. We don't set precedents where men run from our house. We set them where our house is the thing men run toward. He tilts his head. "Anyway, you'll be free." She feels the words stick to her throat. Free. As if it were a gift. As if freedom can be bestowed by the same hand that fastened the clasp. Downstairs, another SUV disgorges a man everyone has decided is a prince. Everett Ashford looks like an algorithm designed to go viral. He moves like he expects the world to step aside, and it does. "Everett!" The hotel GM calls. "Welcome, sir." Everett skims the edge of the crowd like he's been bored for years. The cameras love him. He feeds them the smile they came for. Then he stops. The SUV by the curb. "The man inside, who is that?" Everett asks. "The Summers son-in-law," the GM murmurs. "The one who..." "Right." Everett's mouth tilts. "Wake him." 2 bellmen approach like the task requires choreography. One taps the glass. Another tugs the handle. Nothing. Everett steps closer and raps his knuckles against the window, crisp and amused. The sound is a report. The sleeping man stirs, eyes opening slow, unfocused. He blinks at Everett. The way Kai takes him in is almost lazy, then not lazy at all. Everett mimics the motion of a coach. "Let's go, buddy." He expects movement. Kai sits up, pats his pockets, finds a valet ticket, a nickel, a folded note to himself he doesn't remember writing. He rolls the nickel across his knuckles. The rain decides to commit. "1 drop, then a line." "Sir," the GM says, "we'd appreciate your cooperation." Kai studies them through the windshield and sees the triangle they make. The man who wants a scene, the man paid to prevent one, the man invited to lose. Kai lowers the window an inch. Appreciation's rare these days, he says. His voice is sanded down from disuse. Everett smiles the way people smile at neighborhood dogs they will not be adopting. You're sleeping at a donor entrance, he says. And it's charming that you're committing to your bit. But tonight isn't really about you. Nothing is, Kai says, and flicks the nickel through the gap. It arcs clean and taps Everett just above the brow, a soft, precise click. Not a bruise, but a mark. Everett's face does a complicated thing with anger and disbelief. The paparazzi inhale. Kai says almost kindly, I don't like being handled while I'm dreaming. A laugh hooks out of someone. The cameras find the angle. Everett's jaw tightens. The GM looks like a man who knows what a storm costs. Let him sleep, Everett says, eventually smoothing his hair. His smile returns too bright. We'll move him when it's time. He walks inside, leaving the nickel on the wet stone. The rain finds it and turns it into a coin of light. And upstairs, Sloane Summers watches the weather change and understands that the book never closes without a bloodstain. Chapter 1. The transfer, they call it a model. A formula, a set of hidden weights and public outcomes. 12 years ago, Gideon Vale wrote a paper at Stanford that made him famous to people who get famous for writing papers. 6 years ago, he presented a talk with a title so airy it floated over ethics like a helium balloon. Serendipity, Merit and the New Risk Ecology. In private, it had a practical name, the transfer. If you believe that outcomes can be predicted, if you believe that we've moved from gods to graphs, then you can convince yourself of almost anything. The transfer performed a social magic trick with data the way launderers perform magic tricks with money. It looked for a person whose life, through a malignant alignment of credit, social ties, health, and timing, could absorb what others could not afford to carry. You bind that person economically and socially. Marriage is convenient. And you use them as the town's lightning rod. Every time a bolt looks for a place to land, it's guided. Not perfectly, but enough. Enough to reroute probability. Enough to make a family's 5-year slide reverse itself as if someone changed the weather. Enough to ruin a man. Kai did not know. The transfer existed when he met Sloane Summers. He knew only that she stood by a window in a bar in the West Village and looked like someone who reads the plaque next to a painting instead of pretending she already knows. He knew she laughed at his joke about the city's obsession with lines, straight lines, long lines, skylines, bloodlines. My father thinks a good line is one you can defend in court, she said, and the way she said it made Kai ask her out. When the marriage was proposed, it came wrapped in language so clean you could eat off it. Partnership, discretion, mutual respect. The Summers were in a bad season. The papers had stopped calling Victor a genius and started calling him embattled. Philanthropic galas were less well attended. The board grimaced. Sloane was the least political of his children and the most palatable to the public. A quiet, normal marriage would stabilize the optics. A marriage to a nobody would say, "We bleed like you. We choose love like you." They told him he could keep bartending or not. They told him he'd have an allowance or not. They told him he could have Sloane or not. The word they did not say was shield. Kai said yes because he loved her. People do foolish things on that excuse every day. If you bind a person with promises and paperwork, sometimes you don't have to use chains. At the sovereign court, Victor touches Sloane's shoulder in a way that feels like a command. Smile, he says softly. The storm passed. She looks out at the city that taught her the difference between use and value. Somewhere below, Kai is a problem someone intends to solve. Somewhere below, he's a person. She smiles. It looks convincing. When the Summers Foundation had flown aid into Puerto Vallarta after the hurricane, Sloane had stood under a tent in rain that came sideways and listened to a woman explain the arithmetic of loss. House gone. Husband injured. Livelihood drowned. What saved her was not a grant or a bag of rice or a photo op. It was her sister arriving with a truck. Sloane had written it down. People save people. Not institutions. Not optics. People. Later, at the board meeting, Victor had quoted her in a speech. And later still, when the family PR team put out stories about the Foundation's Human First initiative, they used her words to sell a gala. It was like hearing your own heartbeat played through a loudspeaker in a store selling clothes you couldn't afford not to wear. Optics live in your mouth and come out sounding like language. Optics edit your life to make your past look inevitable. Optics call a marriage a partnership and make it feel in the dark like a locked door. Do you regret it? Her friend Talia had asked once. Saying yes? I regret what yes turned into, Sloane said. And him? She thought about the way Kai watches people without deciding who they are first. The way he notices things, then waits. He is a bartender by training and a listener by gift. He keeps your secrets even when you think you don't have any. He doesn't fight back unless he has to, and this restrain, looks to the Summers like weakness. To Sloane, it looks like a grace they don't deserve. I regret not protecting him, she said. You could have not married him. Sloane had looked at Talia like you look at a friend who has never had to survive her own family. And then they would have found someone else who didn't love them, she said. And he'd be worse off. The lie inside that truth tasted like copper. She swallowed it anyway. Tonight, optics are a sport. The ballroom has been arranged to look like generosity and not extraction. The band is exceptional and quiet. The centerpieces are minimalist and expensive. The donors glide. Every face is lit. Every surface suggests the right kind of past. Victor works the room like a man returning from war. He accepts apologies without you ever hearing the word. He makes a point to introduce Gideon, veiled to two directors of two funds who will later pretend they haven't heard the term transfer and then recommend their analysts read. Veils white paper on liquidity and serendipity. Anyway, up 2 degrees of privacy. In a smaller room where the jewelry is louder, Everett Ashford greets Sloane like he is greeting a future he purchased wholesale. You look savage, he says. Is that meant to be good? It's meant to be true. He offers her a drink. She declines. He laughs. My team tells me we're underwriting your father's next move. We're on the same side. Everett, she says. We are not on the same side. We are in the same theater, he grins. Fine, save your lines for the headline. Are you always this awful? Only around things I want, he says, and the way he says it makes Sloane feel both vivid and tired. Across the room, Dr. Vale lifts a glass he won't finish and smiles in a way that suggests he takes credit for weather he can't actually control. You look troubled, he says to Sloane when he reaches her. It's just a lot of people, she says. People can be modeled, he says, meaning don't be sentimental. And people, especially the public, love the story where deviance is absorbed by a vessel. It's ancient. You mean Christ, Sloane says, and watches him flinch for the first time all night. I mean myth, Vale says. Don't be literal. Religion is a beautiful data set. It tells us what people were willing to forgive, and what they were willing to crucify. Only the ones who obliged, he says. Downstairs in the SUV, Kai is awake again. The rain has deepened to a clarity that cleans the air and dirties the shoes. He rubs his eyes. A valet hovers, anxious kind. The kid has the shoulders of someone who hasn't learned how to shrug off other people's anger yet. Hey, the kid says. Do you want a coffee? I can get you. I'm okay, Kai says. You, hit Mr. Ashford with a coin. I've hit worse men with lighter things, Kai says. He smiles. What's your name? Joey. Hi, Joey. I'm the man the papers call a mess. Joey looks stricken. Sorry, it's funny, kid, Kai says. If you can afford to keep calling it funny. He steps out of the SUV and feels the rain like a benediction. He can feel eyes from the lobby, the way light feels on skin. He shouldn't go inside. He knows this because he promised Sloane he wouldn't, and because there are nights when a person's life explodes in their hands and the sound is mostly applause. He goes inside. You can feel wealth in how air moves. Inside the sovereign court, the vents hum in a language written for men in good suits. The floor under Kai's shoes is old stone, polished by rich history. People turn to look at him the way schools of fish shift, instinct, not malice. The malice comes later. Kai, someone says, not his name. The name they give the idea of him. Kai, someone else says, a different tone, the way his name sounds when Sloane says it. He turns, and there she is, gray-blue satin like a storm you don't try to outrun. You promised, she says softly, which hurts more than if she had said it hard. I'm just getting coffee, he lies. Because lies are sometimes a bandage you put on the truth so it stops bleeding everywhere. Don't poke the bear tonight, she says. What if the bear needs poking? He asks. Then wait until it's not in front of 500 cameras. You sound like your father. He regrets it as soon as it leaves his mouth. She flinches like a bruise you didn't know you made. Sorry, he says. You look tired, she says, because she can be kind while she's killing him. Work did that, he says. You haven't bartended in months. He smiles, small. Work doesn't always pay. A man behind Sloane clears his throat. Everett stands with a drink he won't finish. Confident, beautiful in the way buildings are beautiful, structurally impressive, terrible in an earthquake. Good to see you vertical, Everett says to Kai. I liked you better horizontal. This city has a kink for publicly humiliating people, Kai says. You must feel very seen. Everett's smile doesn't quite reach the eyes. You know the thing about coins? What? They only have value because we agree they do, Everett says. Like luck. Like men. Like your face, Kai says softly. Victor arrives with Gideon Vale at his shoulder. Victor's smile is the kind you frame. Family, he says in a tone that makes the words sound expensive. Kai was just about to get coffee, Sloane says, rescuing him in a way that looks like escorting a prisoner back to his cell. Stay, Victor says. We're making an announcement. Kai looks at Sloane. Her eyes say don't, he can do that. He can leave. He can go drink the bitter thing and stare at his reflection and decide to be small one more night. Okay, he says, because sometimes mercy is just endurance. Victor steps onto a small riser that appears whenever he needs elevation. The band drops to a hush. The room gathers in that slick way rooms like this do. Friends, Victor says. He knows all their names. He knows all their secrets. 5 years is a biblical number. Long enough for a drought. Perfect for a story. The crowd laughs like they are in on something they are not in on. We are through it, Victor says, because we never believed in versions of success that didn't require faith. In our people. In our city. In our data, he adds, nodding toward Gideon, who bows with the modesty of a saint who signs invoices. And in our family, Victor says. He turns to Sloane. Who held the line? He does not look at Kai when he says it, and somehow this omission is the cruelest accuracy. The applause tastes like metal. Kai watches faces, mapping sincerity and relief and the peculiar joy people feel when a narrative crystallizes. Everett claps with 2 fingers against his palm, idle. He leans into Kai's shoulder like men do when they want intimacy to feel like dominance. After the book closes, he says, I'll take care of her. Kai turns his face toward Everett with the slow interest of a man who just realized the rules of the game aren't rules at all. What book? Everett smiles the way men smile when they know they've already won. Ask the preacher, he says, nodding toward Gideon Vale. Ask your father-in-law. Ask your wife. Kai looks at Sloane. Her eyes have gone that particular color blue that isn't a color at all but a temperature. Cold enough to press on a burn. Kai, she says. Not here. You could tell me anywhere, he says. And it would still be here. Gideon Vale approaches with Victor at his flank. Mr. Mendoza, Vale says with a cordiality that drips. How are you sleeping? Like a man whose dreams were outsourced, Kai says. Victor's smile tightens. Enough. Enough is a prayer, Kai says. You should write it down, Sloane touches his hand. He startles. She doesn't do that here. The gesture cracks something open in his chest. Please, she says. 2 days, please. For what? Victor's eyes shine. Closure, he says. On the record? A woman's voice says from the edge of the circle. Amara Holt steps into the pool of light with the practiced smile of someone who was invited and then told to behave. I'm sorry, she lies. It's just, the story here is extraordinary. Family as ballast, data as belief. Victor loves a journalist who flatters math. We'll have something for you soon, he says, which is how men like him say, you'll get what you get. Of course, Amara says. And the son-in-law, what's your role in the story? Kai looks at her half a second too long. He recognizes her byline. He knows what fire looks like in people who aren't playing. I'm a cautionary tale, he says. And a weather vane, Everett laughs. And a coin, he adds. Heads, tails, someone else decides. Not always, Kai says. And he takes the nickel Everett left on the stone outside, the one he picked up as he walked in, and he flips it. It whips into the air like a dare. The lights catch it. Cameras find them. The city loves a ritual. Heads, Sloane thinks. Let it be heads. Let anything be heads. The coin lands in Kai's palm. He doesn't look. He closes his hand around it and slides it into his pocket. Not everything needs to be answered in public, he says. He looks at Sloane. But it does need to be answered. Victor exhales. 2 days, he says. Then we all get what we deserve. Kai nods. That's what I'm afraid of. He walks away because there are nights when the bravest thing you can do is retreat. When he reaches the hallway, he leans against the wall and breathes like a man who has just climbed 8 flights of stairs. Amara Holt follows him at a distance that respects both ethics and danger. She doesn't call out. She watches him put his hands on his knees and stare at the floor like the floor is about to tell him a secret. Joey, the valet, appears with a coffee and the doggedness of someone who decided to help already and intends to finish. Sir, he says. You forgot this. Kai takes the cup. Thanks, he says. Joey hesitates. Do you ever feel like people decided who you are and now you're stuck being it? Kai smiles without humor. Only on days that end in Y. Joey nods, relieved by the joke. He goes. Kai looks at the coffee as if it might be poisonous or holy. His phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. A link, no context. He knows better. He taps anyway. The page loads. A dashboard that looks like every fintech dashboard ever built by men who tell you not to worry about the back end. A title in small smug font. Summers Family Contingency Index. He scrolls. The first name on the ledger is his. The hallway outside the ballroom is a museum of anonymous wealth. Hushed carpet. Art that looks expensive even when you don't know why. Doors that lead to rooms you need a last name to open. Kai stands there with his back to a cool wall and a hot cup and the nickel warm against his thigh. He could put the phone away. He could pretend the link was a prank. He taps it again. Summers Family Contingency Index, the header says, white on black, sterile as a hospital. Beneath, a pulsing circle of metrics, pedal charts fanning out into categories that sound like a hedge fund's personality quiz. Luck, drift ratio optics, volatility, public sentiment, delta contingent liability absorption capacity, underneath, targets. It loads a row of initials and numbers, sliding like ticker tape. KMZ 0311 SLS 0921 VCSS 0416 ASH 1202. He taps KMZ 0311. A modal window pops, guest view, redacted. He exhales. Someone wanted him to see but not know. It's like being allowed to smell bread and told that hunger is a lesson. There's enough to make a person shiver. Binding instruments. Conjugal Agreement 618. Indemnity Rider 0907, non-disparagement in perpetuity. Flags, insurability proxy low, diversion index high. Status, transfer phase GR4, book close T2. He scrolls. Each category flowers into dates and data. 19 to 10. Credit card fraud flag, resolved in target's name, 11-209-2020-04. Loss. Event rerouted to target employer. Liability acceptance. Yes, 2021-06, auto. Accident attribution. 60% allocated to target. Premium. Spike. 400% 2022 YO1. IRS audit selected. Randomization seed. R03. Outcome. Owed 18,662 2023-03. Nonprofit compliance issue. Scapegoat modeling. Target signed. He pinches the screen smaller, trying to take it all in. There are graphs that look like seismographs tied to his pulse, green turning to blue, turning to indifferent gray. Some numbers are beautiful. If the math weren't a weapon, he could admire it. The page blinks. A countdown appears in the corner. Guest view expires in 0047. He fumbles for a screenshot, takes 3. He has the thought, stupid, late, that the page could be bait. He kills Wi-Fi. Airplane mode. Breath hard now, small. He writes a few phrases on the coffee cup with a pen he forgot he had. Indemnity 0907, book close T2, diversion index. Deep breaths, a voice says. Polite and amused, not unkind. He glances up. Amara Holt is leaning near the sconce, not close enough to spook, not far enough to ignore. She's changed shoes somewhere. Practical flats replacing heels. A woman who doesn't confuse height for power. Bad caffeine? She asks. What do you know about storms that only strike one house? Kai asks, because it's easier than answering a direct question. I know the neighborhood tends to call it a fluke, she says. And I know someone's redirecting the gutters. His laugh is more a cough. He runs a thumb over the ink bleeding into paper. Why are you here? Because I never trust the story you can see from the main room. She tips her chin toward his cup. And because sometimes the person with the coffee is the only honest one left in the building. He should walk. Every lawyer in Victor's pocket has given him a rule book. Rule 1 is don't talk to reporters. Rule 2 is don't talk to reporters. Rule 3 is get a different phone. You're not wrong, he says, about the gutters. He meets her eyes and sees the kind of hunger he recognizes in himself when he used to watch the city wake up before he became its lightning rod. If I give you anything tonight, you'll get burned with me. Amara smiles with only half her mouth. Maybe, she says, but I own a fireproof file cabinet. The hallway shifts. A staffer passes with a tray, and the restless energy of someone told not to spill a decade. The applause inside the ballroom rolls like surf against pilings. 2 days. Ask me in 48 hours, he says. She doesn't conceal her disappointment well. I might not like what's left of you in 48 hours. I might like it more, he says. He walks. He can feel the coin in his pocket, the weight of a small decision. The city is louder out on 53rd, horns and wet tires and that hiss steam makes when it escapes underground. He lifts his face into the rain because he wants something unowned to touch him. His phone pings. Airplane mode is off again somehow. His hands are clumsy. Another text from the same unknown number. 2 words only. Get out. He looks up at the hotel like it's an animal. He goes back inside. The meeting rooms off the mezzanine are mostly empty. The one farthest down the hall is dim, a satellite stage waiting for a panel. He slips in and closes the door, sits near the back row like he's about to watch a movie alone. He scrolls the screenshots. He tries to make the world reasonable. The math has a logic to it. If you were trying to make your family's life softer without asking them to risk their own necks, you could justify a lot. If you had a man who loved your daughter enough to sign hard things, you could tell yourself he knew. He remembers the day they slid the last addendum across the table. Him? Sloan, 2 lawyers who used the word protect like a talisman. He asked too few questions. That's on me, he thinks, and wants to spit. The door clicks. Sloan stands there, not surprised to be unsurprised. She closes it behind her and leans against it, head tipped back. 2 days, she says, like a prayer. Then it stops. What's the part where I'm supposed to be grateful? He says. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have one worth raising. It wasn't supposed to get this bad. She looks at him as if the distance between them is a species of weather. We were supposed to bridge a season. Victor told me 5 years was biblical, he says. Milk and honey come after. Or does someone kill the calf? I tried, she says. It's the worst thing to say and the truest. You loved me and I let logic use that. Who sent me the link?
He asks. She blinks.
What link? He holds up the phone. She steps closer, studies the screenshots. She has never seen this interface, he can tell from her face. That should help. It does not. Gideon, she says. Eloise. Victor's office would... Eloise who? Crane, CFO. He files the name like a nail. There's a book close, T-minus 2 days. She nods barely. A donor book, a PR cycle, She stops. A ritual. Call it what it is, he says. Call it a sacrifice. Sloan closes her eyes.
If I tell you to fly to Mexico for 48 hours, will you think I'm trying to get rid of you?
Yes, he says. And also that you're trying to save me. I can be both, she whispers. He believes her. It doesn't help. You said you'd be free, he says, and hates himself for how small it sounds. She steps closer, raises a hand, doesn't touch him. I said what I say to survive rooms like that one. It's not the same as truth. Tell me the truth. I was supposed to be a bridge too, she says. A person alchemized into a symbol, and I thought I could use the symbol to get actual things done. I thought the math was cold but not cruel. I thought Dad would stop before the part where you broke. Her mouth tightens. I thought too many things that made me nicer on paper than in practice. He wants to take it all apart, but there's no part of him not already in pieces. He nods once. 2 days, he says. 2 days, she says. He leaves her in the dark, because some rooms don't deserve witnesses. As he passes the gaming tables that are not gaming tables, the couches that are not comfortable, the sculpture that is not art, He thinks about redistributing weather. He thinks about holding a coin in your palm and refusing to look at it, as if your hand can force the world to change. Outside, Joey the valet waves shyly. "You okay?" he asks. "No," Kai says. "But I'll get there. Your car?" "I don't own anything people will let me drive anymore," Kai says. He smiles to make it not hurt the kid. Feet still work. He walks into the rain like someone who owes it an explanation. Chapter 5. The Cage. He does what you do when you've been cornered by paper. He goes home and pulls out a drawer full of paper. The apartment has a view of a communal courtyard that looks better in real estate photos. The table is littered with half-unfinished things, books he meant to read, an unpaid parking ticket, a flyer for a jazz night he never went to. He lays the agreements in a line like bodies. Each video takes countless hours of research. If this helped, please hit subscribe. Your support is the boost that keeps me creating better content for you.